Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. You are with me, Arun Sharma, and in today's lesson we continue the read and learn series with me. This is a series that I'm doing based on the feedback from a lot of you people about doing something concrete, doing something valuable for all of you. And what better than reading from diverse sources? And I do a lot of reading personally from myself. And if you read along with me, I'm quite sure you will be able to develop the quality of reading required to be able to ace top level competitive exams, whether it's CAT, GMAT, GRE, or even your UG exams like IPMAT, CLAT, and etc. So do follow the series and do subscribe to the channel and do press the bell icon so that you know whenever we load up a fresh video. So in today's video, I'm doing an article from the Economist. It's an interesting article, and the article here is about. The article is titled. It's about athletes, which says how to measure how stress affects athletes' performance. Now, this is a very important point that you also need to understand, because even at the student level, at your career building level, I see a lot of people who face a lot of stress, and stress affects you in your performance time. And for any exam, any competitive exam that you're giving, or any situation in life where you are under pressure to perform, and if you perform well, you'll make it big in life, you will always be under pressure, and under pressure a lot of us have a lot of stress, and that stress is what cracks us. It's not so much the skill that differentiates the good and the great. It's the ability to perform when the chips are down, when the pressure is against you. That's what differentiates. And this is an interesting article about that issue and how to measure how stress affects athletes' performance. Pick a sport where they don't move much and study skin flushing. Let's see what this article says. So, and we keep reading this. It's also a process of developing your reading ability, reading skills. So, the first sentence here talks about how much stress is good for an athlete. So, they are starting with a question: how much stress is good for an athlete? Surprisingly, since modern professional sport of all sorts. Now, when he's saying surprisingly, he's obviously making a point which you should be able to perceive right at this point. So, and one of the things you need to understand when you're talking about improving your reading skills and your reading habits is that everything that you read, every passage, every paragraph, there are certain critical statements in that paragraph, and then there are certain not so critical statements. I call them idea heavy and idea light sentences. So, in the initial part of any passage or in the initial part of any paragraph, you should be a little bit more circumspect, because typically, unless you grasp the idea of where the article is going or the paragraph is going, you are at a loss to create a mental image of what the author's idea is. And good quality reading basically means transferring the mental image from the author's image and making an image which is as close to it as possible in your own mind. And good comprehension basically means that. So when he says surprisingly, it surprisingly reflects in any writing. Surprisingly reflects a change of tack. It's trying to change you in a different direction, taking you in a different direction. So you have to pick up this information. So surprisingly, since modern professional sport of all sorts now seems to be in the hands of number crunchers, trying to attract another zillionth of a % of performance from their charges. So one of the things that you'll need to understand, I always tell you this, that in all writing, you should be able to, specifically when language or when the sentences become long, you should be able to break down the sentence into parts and read it in parts. So what happens with a lot of readers, especially starting readers or not so accomplished readers, is that they get lost in this whole rigmarole. But please understand that this sense is the reason he's saying that I'm surprised. So the sentence is just this much. Surprisingly, no one knows. And why no one knows, and why is it surprising, is because this whole, these 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe around 25 words, I'm not counting exactly, but around 25 words in this sentence are basically talking about why this is a surprise. So why this is a surprise? Because modern sport is in the hands of, professional sport is in the hands of number crunchers. Yeah, in spite of that, and these number crunchers are always pushing the athletes to perform a little bit better. He talks about a zillionth of a percent of performance, extracting that from the athletes. So in spite of that, no one knows. No one knows what? How much stress. The key question is, how much stress is good for an athlete? So he's not saying that stress is not good for an athlete. Just like we as trainers talk about stress being an important element of your preparation process. If you don't have any stress, that's also not good. But then how much of it is good for you is the key that he is talking about. So once you get this information from the first two sentences, you move on. The reason is that to avoid decrements of performance in equal and opposite magnitude, top athletes are rarely willing to carry. Now, reason for what? The reason for what? You have to keep asking yourself this question. He talks about the reason is that. So, when you talk about reason, the reason is always accompanied by a reason for something. So, reason for what? So, you have to be able to understand that before you read the remaining part. So, you have to think about this reason as a unit of information that is giving. And when you think about this reason, you should be able to connect this to why no one knows, right? So the reason why no one knows is that to avoid decrements in performance of equal and opposite magnitude, decrements means decrease in performance of equal and opposite magnitude. That means you are trying to raise performance, लेकिन तुम्हारा performance गिर रहा है. So to avoid decrements in performance of equal and opposite magnitude, top athletes are rarely willing to carry even the tiniest monitoring device when in competition. So why no one knows how stress affects performance of top athletes is because top athletes have never been very open to carrying measuring devices. So their stress levels have not been measured. And when they are not in competition, such measurements would be meaningless. So basically what they are trying to tell us is that these measurements happen, or these measurements are valuable only in top flight competition, right? It does not matter when you are doing practice because then there is no stress. So so that's one of the reasons why nobody knows, because there is no measurement of this. So you catch hold of this first paragraph, and based on this understanding, you can actually now move on to what the paragraph says. It's a 3-4 paragraph passage, and the second paragraph changes tack again with this word. When you say however, you basically contrast the idea. So however, you're looking, I mean, the moment you read this however, you have to have a contrast of the idea in your thinking. The next paragraph starts with however. To behavioral economists, now this part is not, I mean, of course they should be given credit for what they've done, but you don't need to know. If you're looking at real comprehension and trying to comprehend this in an exams kind of situation, you don't need to know who these people were. You can always come back to it, or you read them very quickly. So your reading speed is like stop start and slowing and it has to wax and wane. So two behavioral economists, blah 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 blah. You should be very quick at this. So Lu Yanfeng and Zhongfei. You don't have to remember the names. Think they have found a way around this. Around what? Around people not willing to measure. At least for athletes whose disciplines do not require them to move a lot. So they have found, these two economists, behavioral economists, have found a way around this problem. What problem? The problem mentioned in the previous paragraph, which was the problem of not being able to measure athletes in top flight performance. So the paragraph goes on. Dr. Lu was inspired to investigate the matter when watching the 2020 Olympic Games. Now this is not really taking your, I mean, if you read this first sentence, it's not taking your idea forward. They're just talking about how they start doing it. So you have to speed up in this part of the passage. When I solve my CAT passages, I read a passage in around 5 minutes, and I'm done with an individual passage in 8 minutes. Over the last 5-7 years of my CAT attempts, I've never had a problem in time in verbal ability, reading comprehension, because I always finish it off. I always finish all the questions. And the reason why I can finish all questions is because of the fact that I'm able to finish one RC passage in around 7 to 8 minutes with the questions. And why I'm able to do that? Not because I've got extraordinary 1000 word per minute reading speed, you don't need that. Why I'm able to do that is because I can go really quick, I can really identify much faster when you should speed up in your reading and when you should slow down in your reading. So Dr. Lu was inspired, क्यों Dr. Lu inspired हुआ? ये इस article, I mean, if you've caught the main idea of the article right now, the main idea of the article is moving towards is how much stress affects performance. So we are more interested in the measurement. डॉक्टर लू को किसने इंस्पायर किया? उनके डॉग ने इंस्पायर किया कि उनको किसी और चीज़ से इंस्पायर हुआ? वो बहुत, that's not a very critical element of this point. So Dr. Lu was inspired to investigate the matter when watching the 2020 Olympic Games on television. He noticed that in the archery contest, competitors' heart rates were shown to viewers as they stood at the mark and shot. Heart rate is well known as an indicator of psychological stress. So he saw this as an opportunity to investigate the relation between stress and performance. To this end, he recruited Dr. Zhong, who has a long history of working on stress and behavior. So they are talking about an incident, and the incident was Dr. Lu saw the Olympic Games, and in the Olympic Games, the archer's heart rate was mentioned, was shown to the viewers. And this must have sparked his interest as a behavioral economist or scientist or whatever they have traced him to be. And that's how the team of Zhong and Lu was created. And so what happened when they started investigating is what we are more interested in. And as per what we expect, the first part of the next paragraph is actually taking you forward in the passage. So you are now again interested very keenly to understand where they want to take this. So when they dug into the matter, मतलब matter को closely देखना start किया, so the two researchers found that 122 of the 128 archers in the games had agreed to have their heart rates measured. The trick was that since competitors were stationary, their heart rates could be monitored remotely by a technique called photoplethysmography. The athletes were stationary, hence the heart rate could be measured by remote technique. So they are not wearing any devices, but they were monitored remotely, which registered changes. What does this technique do? It registers changes in the reflectivity of skin caused by flushing when the heart pumps. We know this instinctively, that when your heart pumps too much or too fast, you have a flush on your cheeks and you've got a flush in your body. So photoplethysmography is basically a technique which registers changes in the reflectivity of skin. So if you are reading this for a reading comprehension situation, you're quite sure, almost sure, that they'll ask you what you understand by photoplethysmography, and they'll give you 3-4 close options. But you have to be able to spot that this is where it is defined, and you look for an option that tells you what this sentence is telling you. So what does it do? It registers changes in the reflectivity of skin. So it looks at the reflectivity of his skin and caused by the flushing when the heart pumps, and correlates well with more conventional measurements such as electrocardiograms. Altogether, they were able to match heart rate to score for 2,247 shots. Wow. So during the Olympic Games, for 2,247 shots, they were able to match heart rate and score. They were able to make a chart or a table for that. as they report in a paper in psychological science, again not important. So as they report in a paper, heart rates during the competition varied tremendously between archers. A few heart rates pumped at just over 1 beat per second, while one competitors raced along at more than 3. So that means almost a tripling of heart rate for some competitors. The average was 138 beats per minute. That means the average was around 2.3 beats per minute. So some were down to 1 and some were up to 3 beats per minute. Overall, archers with higher heart rates had lower scores. And this is where the information about what they discovered came out. So overall, archers with higher heart rates had lower scores, and those with lower rates, higher ones. The average waist rate for a toxophilite who hit inner gold, toxophilite would typically, I mean, even if you don't know the exact meaning of this is basically referring to the archers basically. So you can, it does not break your comprehension at least, even if you don't know that word. So the heart rate for a athlete who hit inner gold or 10 ring, bullseye to non-cognoscenti, for a score of 10 was 134.2 beats per minute. It was 135.7 for outer gold, 9 ring, and for 8 ring, the inner red, it was 137.9. Overall, Dr. Zhang and Lu calculated that each extra heartbeat per minute resulted in a 0.004 point decrease in score. So, and this is one of the reasons I kind of picked up, if you looked at my live video last night, on an important aspect of the CAT about measuring, about managing your performance. And when you talk about any competitive exams, there are two dimensions to cracking a competitive exams. One is the skill development process, the knowledge addition process. One part of it is that, and the second part of it is where you are actually performing. And during the performance, if your stress levels are high, as you can see in this case, 1 heartbeat extra per minute, 1 heartbeat extra per minute is causing a 0.004 unit reduction in the score. Huge. That's huge. That's huge information. And we keep going ahead. So this article, we have complete understanding. These findings support the notion that the performance of even some of the world's most elite athletes decline as they experience increased stress. So something we know intuitively, कि stress ज़्यादा होगा तो performance drop करता है. But a measured situation inside this, and the Economist chose to cover this week. So whether that is peculiar to those who need a steady aim to win or also applies to athletes who have to run around as they compete remains to be seen. Intuitively we know that it actually works. Higher stress levels works towards poorer performance. So broadly that's what, but if the question asked here is what do you think the author says, or what is the author's opinion about athletes who are performing sports that require moving a lot? Or maybe they'll ask you, what do you think the author thinks about the stress to performance relationship for a marathon runner? So a marathon runner is moving a lot. So according to the author has not made that conclusion. Although you kind of have a pre-defined notion that stress for any athlete will cause drop in performance, but the author's point of view is that we still need to open, the jury is out on that, and we still need to understand that. So see, these are some of the nuances that you are facing in these kind of articles, and I hope you like this. Thank you so much. This is in the Economist, the latest edition. You can make a free account on the Economist and you can read, I think, 3 articles they allow in a month. So of course I have to renew my subscription to them, but and I'll bring in a lot more for all of you. Do write in the comments how you're finding this series and whether it's valuable for you. I will continue my journey of trying to give you value through the channel. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.